So I'm Rick Karish. I was the chair of the survey committee that did the survey this February. And this presentation is going to be the summary results. We also have some more detailed results. Besides what I show you here tonight, there are going to be some documents on the website like real soon. Let's see what I want to say, and that is welcome questions along the way. And as soon as I start showing you some charts, I won't be able to see your faces or hand signals like we usually use. So I'll ask you if you want to ask a question or make an observation, just butt right in verbally and we'll handle it. I am intending to finish by 9. The basketball game starts at 9:20. So we'll see if we can manage all of that. I might just check before we start. Do any of you have any big questions about the survey? I know some of you have taken a look at the event or maybe heard the board meeting presentation. Are there any questions to start with? And if not, I'll just start right in. Anybody? Okay, so here we go. So this is the survey of owners, which occurred in February 2021. This survey was commissioned by the board in December. The aim was to address demographics, that is, what's the profile of our owners, usage of Eastman, how are they using Eastman and how has that changed during the COVID year, and then I call this attitudes, but this is really satisfaction and a couple of opinion measures. One of the key things we did here in this survey was to make sure to the greatest extent possible that we were comparable to past surveys. Those are the dates of past surveys. And just notice one thing that's interesting. In 2010, 2016, and now, we're doing a survey that's shortly after a major project. In 2010, it was just after the, or during the work on the big replacement of South Cove. In 2016, it was the very large refurbishment of the center building, which is the building at the golf course with the restaurant. And then now in 2021, we finished just several months ago, a $2.5 million upgrade to our maintenance complex. In this survey, we got almost 900 responses. This is more than we've gotten in previous surveys. While many surveys would be done with a 3% sample or a 5% sample, this is more like a half a census. So we are doing some extrapolation to the whole population, but it's based on a pretty significant number of responses. This is our committee. The thing I want to say about our committee is that we recruited people who have some significant professional experience in doing this kind of work. I majored in marketing science at MIT's business school. Immediately after school, I started a company with a couple professors. And for 15 years, we did this work all the time for big advertisers. I've probably done 100 of these kind of presentations. And I want to say that in doing them, one thing I've learned is that it's tempting to listen to this. It's normal human nature to listen to this like a report card. And think about when you were back in school and you got a report card with an A. So what'd you do when you got an A? You probably, and if you got a C, I'll bet you that you were right back in there arguing about how unfair that was. And I don't want to do either one of those. What I'd like to do, either for the A's or the C's, to think about what it means, think about the implications, think about what might have led to it. We're going to talk about the demographics, usage, and attitudes, and we've got a bunch of open-end comments. I'm going to comment on, I'll refer to them at the end. One of the most important was a big wide open question. What would you like to see improve? What improvement or change at Eastman would be most beneficial in terms of improving your satisfaction? The first thing I want to say, the first finding is that the Eastman population is quite dynamic. It's not static. If you look at these charts, about 30% turnover every 5 years. For us this time, it was 37%. In 2016, the 5-year turnover was 30%. I think somewhere in there is going to be a long-term average for Eastman. What does this mean? What this means is we need to be careful about our mindset about who's here. If anybody at the staff level, board level, or anywhere goes into a mindset that the population is static and we don't need to repeat something because we told it 3 years ago, that's going to lead to all kinds of problems. I think it's really important that we be communicating with an idea that about 1/3 of the population is new every 5 years. Now, don't hesitate to stop me anywhere here if you want to. This notion of 30% new every 5 years is corroborated in the data we collect on membership fees. These are the fees that are charged when a new owner comes into Eastman buying a property. The average over the last 5 years was 7.2% a year, which is a little higher. The 10-year average, 5.8%. Both of these are commensurate with about 30% turnover in 5 years. Our real estate market, of course, is cyclical, as almost any real estate market. The long-term average of this would be about 30% every 5 years. Any questions on that? Here's a new chart, which we were not able to do in any previous surveys, but now have the wherewithal. This chart shows the age distribution of the people arriving and departing over the last 5 years. The green bars are arrivals and the red bars are departures. The key thing I want to point out about this chart, the green bars are in a wide range of age ranges. Look at this. Our first big bar starts at ages in the 30s, and we've got a broad distribution all the way up here into the 70s. This is a challenge for Eastman's marketing and communication. We've got to make appeals to this wide range of ages, and in our programmatic offerings, the rec department, everybody, we've got to pay attention to the fact we've got a wide range of ages coming in here and being here. Now, the departures, this should be no surprise, the departures cluster around 60s, 70s, and people in their 80s in age. That should be no surprise. Wide range of ages coming in, older people leaving. Ignore the bar over here on the left. Those are the teenagers in 2016 who left home. Any questions about this?
Richard, it's Martha Arnold. A quick question.
Sure.
Can you break this out like 2016 to 2019? So in other words, like kind of pre and post pandemic?
I have not done that, but Martha, I also did this analysis for 2016 versus a 10-year period, 2007 to 2016, and it looks very similar. Okay. I don't think that this is pandemic, and anyway, that pandemic year is another 10% in the overall population.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Now, those are the people coming and going. What does that result in who's here? Our who's here age range has changed quite a bit. Starting in 2007, we were at 16% in our 70s, and that rose gradually through 2016 to 27% and stayed constant. The dark blue is people in their 60s, 24%, up to 26, back to 21. The total of these, let's take a look, is 60 plus. That's going to be 48% up here and only 40% down here. So in the last 15 years, we've gotten older. What is this data? Our questionnaire was one response per household, and we asked for the ages of all household members. So this is the distribution of all of those household members' ages. Eastman is quite a bit older than Sullivan County and our state. In the state of New Hampshire, the comparable numbers down here at the very last bar, 12% in their 70s, 14% in their 60s, 26% total, and we're up to 48. I will say that New Hampshire is one of the oldest states in the country. Our median age here in 2021 is 58. The state of New Hampshire is in the low 40s. So we're an old group overall, but we still have significant number of people in their 40s. And you know, a fair number in the 20s and 30s. Once again, a challenge to do programming for this wide range of ages. I'm not going to say much about this chart, except that we took a look at some key demographic breaks. The first is living here. Living here means that the Eastman property is their primary residence. We judge that by whether they spend 2/3 of the year or more at the Eastman property, self-identified. Working, we classified a household as working full-time if one or more adults is working full-time and they've got kids. Our threshold is 18. So kids under 18 qualify your household as a household with kids. Now, what did we find? First of all, live here. This means Eastman is the primary home. Are any of you familiar with the really, really long-term trend here? When Eastman began, we first started coming here in 78. In 78, Eastman was about 2/3 second homes and about 1/3 people living here. That changed gradually all the way up into around 2007, 2010, when it reached 60% living here, and that stayed flat. All of a sudden now, this flat has gone up to 67%. 60 to 67 is a big jump. And incidentally, all of the things I'm telling you are statistically significant among our sample of nearly 1,000.
Isn't that a pandemic effect?
That's a good question. They're living here now, and the big question is what's going to happen next year? What's going to happen next year? And what's going to happen 2 years on out? Yes, certainly, and what happens from here on out? Working full-time had its down and up, and kids in the household went down and up 2016, 2021, but stay tuned. There's more to the story. When we take a look at working families, the dark blue bars are working and living here. The light blue bars are not living here. So what we got is a big jump from 30% of our owners working and living here. All of a sudden it's 40%. Again, COVID influenced, and the big question is how much of it will last. Next, let's take a look at kids. Kids in the household, again, the same kind of a jump. Kids in the household living here was flat at 12, now it's 14. Both of these have implications for the staff in doing programming to serve everybody here at Eastman. I think that's the major stuff I want to talk about ages. And any question about this, any surprises? And again, of course, the big question is how much of this will persist. Condos versus house owners. While the association as a whole is aiming in everything we do to serve everybody here, let's take a look at the condominium profile as opposed to the profile of house owners. The house owners are far bigger in number, so they dominate the overall. We'll just look at the first bar versus the second bar in each of these charts. In terms of living here, house owners, 77% live here. For condo owners, it's way lower. Working full-time is less for condo owners, and having kids in the household is less for condo owners. Now, as I say, Eastman is going to work hard to serve everybody, but I think that this information should be interesting to the condo associations as to their profile. Has COVID affected the amount of time I spend here? The answer is yes. This is a direct question. Has COVID caused you to spend more time here? A good chunk said yes, that they want to spend, that they are spending more time here. And then we asked about guests and visitors. Here's a segment who said yes, they had more people here for significant periods. And in the comments, they said things like, yes, my son, instead of staying at college, stayed here with me all year. My daughter, who was working in New York, was able to work from home and said, what the heck, I might as well go up and join mom and dad at Eastman. Second families. Many people had well, for example, we had our daughter's family here for just a couple weeks, but other people had their kids' families significant parts of the year. On the other hand, short-term, well, very few people had more for short periods, and it's real clear that short-term visitors were affected by all of the COVID restrictions and just good practices. So we had an awful lot of people here at Eastman. Oops, I apologize for that. Let's see if we can quiet those things down. Now, what I want to say, yeah, more people here at Eastman. Besides more people saying that they live here, they also said they're going to spend more time here. We asked directly, what percentage of the year did you spend here at Eastman in 2019? What percentage in 2020? And what percentage in 2021? Not only did live here go from 60 to 67, but they said they're going to spend more time here. Among people who don't live here, that increased also. Now, when I saw these data, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to go find corroborating data. And I'll tell you a couple stories about this search for corroborating data, but this one took me to the water district. And I said, what do we know about water usage? You know, maybe quarterly water usage, gallons billed to water users, quarter by quarter for the last couple of years. And well, we don't quite have that data. And I'll tell you as we go along. And there's a punchline for that. Now I want to go to the question of how we measure sensitive things like confidence in Eastman, satisfaction, and so forth. We didn't make these questions up. One thing that survey researchers love to do is research what's the best way to a large body of knowledge that squares away and sends the whole practice of doing this in this direction. The first point is you're asking about something that's tangible to the people that you're talking to. So we're talking about community paved roads and community unpaved roads, things like that, things that they know. Second, you ask on a multi-point scale, and the multi-point scale has at least a couple things on the lower end, highly dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, and then similarly things on the upper end, somewhat and highly satisfied. You almost always have neutral in the middle, and you may or may not allow them to say, no, I'm not going to answer this question. I don't know. I have no opinion. If you want to, you can put comment line in here and get a little more color and flavor to the questions that they're asking. You've all seen these kind of questions all the time on various surveys. Here's how to interpret these. The green bar is satisfied. Now we had two levels of satisfied. I've just mushed them together. The dark bar down here at the left is dissatisfied. Again, two levels, but they're mushed together. We can separate them later. The gray bar is don't know, no opinion, or no answer. And then yellow is in the middle, neutral. So here's the story. If you're getting 82, anywhere in the 80s green, that's a very, very good satisfaction. Some of this is context dependent. Some of this depends on what you're asking about, but I'll tell you that overall 80 is good. 50 is on the weak side, 65 is in the middle. Maybe let's try and remember those numbers, 50, 65, something in the 80s, and we'll use that to judge. What does it mean if you get a lot of people who say they don't know or have no opinion? Think about that. What would that mean? We're asking about satisfaction with something. So we're going to ask about satisfaction with the indoor pool. Well, the gray bar, don't know, no opinion, or no answer, probably means that they're not familiar with it. It likely means that they don't use it very much or maybe don't use it at all. So the gray bars are an indication, not perfect, but a pretty good indication of whether people are familiar with and use. When there are gray bars, we can recalculate excluding the no answers. And see, this 40 and 50 becomes 80% satisfied among those who had an opinion. That's pretty good. Now, the last one, what is this? It's quite possible to get polarized responses where you've got a big chunk positive and a big chunk negative. That's trouble in a community. When you're marketing a product, it means you might have a narrow segment. In a community like ours, we don't want to see these kind of polarized responses on most anything we do. Any questions about these kind of measures for survey information? So the first thing I want to say is that overall satisfaction with Eastman is very good. We're at 85%, was 80% in 2016, and then 83% in 2010. So this is a darn good indication that the Eastman owners are highly satisfied with what's happening here and what they're getting. Second thing I'll point out to you is the blue bars. Look at the change in the blue bars. Now the blue bars look kind of small over there at the end, but that 15% negative falling in half is a very significant thing. I don't know how many of you were here in 2015, 2016. There was quite a bit of division on the question of the investment to refurbish the center. That got very contentious, and you can certainly see it in the 2016 data. You'll see it more vividly in a couple charts down. Let's see where we want to go from here. These are three other measures. We got the board on top, we got the council down here, and we've got ECA management down here. 2021, significant size gray bars. These are people who did not provide an opinion. Don't know, no opinion, or didn't answer. Where's that coming from? You know, I think that that is in significant part the gradual turnover of Eastman to new owners, 30% new in 5 years. I think that this is an indication that we need to be communicating how Eastman works. Eastman has some particular things in our governance and our financial structures that are a little tricky to explain. And I think that this is evidence that a number of people don't understand them. How the assessment is determined, how the capital assessment is determined, how decisions are made on programs and spending, the interaction between committees and staff groups that have overlapping responsibilities. All these things are a little complicated, and I think there's an indication here that they need more explanations. Second big thing I'm going to say is, once again, look at that dark blue bar. Those numbers show substantial division and polarization back in 2016. That's unhealthy for a community, and I'll tell you that my personal view is that Eastman should work really hard to avoid having that kind of division in the future. Any questions on these or anything that we've said so far? I'm going to dive into the overall satisfaction just a little more. And now I've taken the green bar and I've divided it into two parts. The dark green is highly satisfied. The light green is somewhat satisfied. Now, the total of the light and dark green in all of these is up in the 80s. So all of these are very good. But one of the things that we do, in survey data, that a really sensitive way of looking at satisfaction is the ratio of the highly to the somewhat. So this turned up when we started looking at retired families, that is not working, versus working families. Retired families are more satisfied here. The ratio for retired families is up at 3 to 1. The ratio for working families is a little below 2 to 1. All those numbers are good. There's no problem there, but we are doing better for retired. Once again, the implication for the staff is to think about working families and what our programs and offerings can do for working families. I'm going to shift gears, but let me see if we've got any questions on any of that overall measures. So I'm going to shift gears now to the amenities. Once again, the gray bars are a pretty good indication of not familiar with or don't use. Some of these I'm not surprised at all. Winter sports, we know probably 20–25% go away for the winter. Don't do the indoor sports. The indoor pool and fitness facility, those were hard to access during the COVID era. Not surprised there. The big numbers for golf and tennis, a little bit surprising to me. Pickleball, any of you play pickleball? Pickleball is a wonderful sport that a few people play and it's growing. No problem with pickleball. Walking and hiking trails are rated by 90%, only 11% no, and beaches are well understood and known. Now let's take a look at all these numbers recalculated to exclude the people who don't answer. When you exclude the don't answer, you get some numbers that I think may be indicative for the staff and for our programs. Look at the ones that are very high. Walking and hiking trails, all very high. 86, 91. Beaches are quite good. The pool, the fitness facility, quite good. Pickleball, we know that there's some problems with the courts. I think that that's said. Tennis courts, I don't know. I thought our tennis courts were in fabulous shape. That's not a bad number. That's in our good range, not really good, not really high, but it's in our good range. And golf course is in a good range.
Rick, about tennis courts, I don't know if people were responding to the courts or the way the programs work, because the programming has been frustrating for a lot of people.
Yeah. Got it. The question, it's funny, you ask these questions and you try to be very, very explicit. So the question is about the condition of the courts. Now, on the other hand, this gets blurred in people's minds when they answer. And I'm not surprised if there isn't some of that the access to tennis was harder this year. Access to golf was a little harder. And of course, the pool and fitness were much harder. Let's see where we go from there. Golf course. This pops a big question in my mind. Look at the gray bars. The gray bars went 29% in 2010, 43, and then 48. What's going on? And this is especially surprising because we know that 2020, the season just ended, was a record year in terms of memberships and play in our golf course. So why do we have this increasing proportion who won't give us an opinion in the survey? Is it possible that our record golf year was achieved while the number of Eastman owners playing golf diminished? That's a good question. So once again, a little story about looking for corroborating data. I went to try to get corroborating data, and it was hard to find. It wasn't quite available. I wanted to know the 5-year trend in Eastman owners playing or holding memberships. And we couldn't do that. Now, the data is there. We certainly can put it together, but it's not being collected and observed regularly, just like we couldn't find the water data. I'll make one more point about that and then sum it up. When we recalculate excluding the don't answers, the satisfaction with the golf course, on the whole, these numbers, 80, 75, that's our good range. The change from the 80, 85 down to 75, that's a significant difference. And over here, that pesky blue bar was 4% in previous surveys, now 8%. I believe this is a clear indication. All those numbers, all those changes I pointed out are statistically significant. We got plenty of numbers for that. This is an indication that there is some undercurrent of dissatisfaction with the condition of the golf course in 2020. And we know that the golf course had a real condition problem in 2019. So we'll pay attention to that. We go to tennis. Tennis has even more severe progress here. The people who don't answer, 47%, 66%, 73%. And once again, what am I going to do? I'm going to go look for corroborating data about the usage of our tennis facility by Eastman owners. And we collect better data on that for golf. In golf, we're collecting it, but not really keeping it front and center. In tennis, we don't collect that data. There is a sign-up process that was in force in 2020. It was not universally observed. The sign-ups weren't done so much beforehand. And a lot of tennis play is inter-club matches and so forth. So my point in all of that is that overall, Eastman does an awful lot better job at tracking financial data than we do at tracking operational data. And I think it's an opportunity for us to become slicker in terms of our operating effectiveness by keeping and watching operational data. Any questions or comments so far? Because next I'm going to go to roads. Any questions about amenities or the overall? Let's see, and I've got a couple members of my committee. I think Becky is on. I don't know if Mike is on. Did you want to add anything to what I've said so far about the overall satisfaction or the amenities? If not, we'll go to roads. Go to roads. You know, I was astounded in the previous surveys, 2010 and 2016, that we get pretty darn high marks for road maintenance. Man, that says something, that the crew is appreciated. We asked this for different settings on roads. We asked for paved roads, unpaved roads, winter, summer, and believe it or not, mud season. Mm. Yeah, mud. I hope you're all doing well. We had a couple soft days, but we've done pretty well. And I know a couple roads got in real trouble this year, and the maintenance crew was out working on them. These road numbers, our satisfaction, are quite good. I don't know if there's anything to do about that for the mud season. We collected comments from respondents about when they gave their road satisfaction. There's a little comment box down at the bottom. The biggest number was good job on a tough challenge. I'd like to see better conditions on road round the lake. And then I'd like to see more roads paved. I don't know how many of you know this, or how many of you are aware of this. It was publicized, but at the beginning of the COVID thing, in March of last year, we met, and the leadership at Eastman took an extraordinary step. In March of last year, we suspended the capital budget for the year. We curtailed certain operating things. We said, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We don't know how it's going to affect our owners, our population here, and usage here. So we're going to be extremely conservative. As a result of that, the normal process of going around on the paved roads, finding the worst sections and fixing them, which occurs each year, didn't happen last year. It will happen this year, and some of the issues will get cleaned up, I'm sure. But I believe that this is respondents telling us that they noticed that we didn't do that road maintenance on paved roads this year. We also have a question. The last question on the survey is quite open-ended. What improvement would you suggest or request that would most increase your satisfaction with Eastman? And we had a good number of comments on roads. One set is about paving, and the other set, one set is about repairing, and the other set is about paving more of the roads. Paving more roads is going to be hard. That's a substantial capital expenditure. Michael is very clear about which roads he wants to work on, which roads he wants to pave, and which ones not. And there's a continuous repair process that's going on. It will go on this year, was suspended last year. The next set of questions are about governance, management, and various operations. I've already mentioned to you the results for the board of directors, the council, and for ECA management in general. So let's take a look at some of the others. Maintenance operations, recreation, marketing and communication. These scores are all in the good range. Security operations, I'm not surprised that people don't know what goes on there and what's happening in the financial staff. You know, most of our interaction is receiving and paying bills. Golf operations, this mirrors the proportion who said that they weren't ready to give an opinion on the golf course conditions. This is about operations. When we recalculate taking out the people who didn't provide an opinion, now your scores are pretty good. These are in the 80s. Down here, financial operations, 67. I think members don't understand what's going on there, and we'd probably do some communication. The 60s and 70s for management, council, and board of directors. I don't have any particular additional comment. Those are good. They aren't the very best. We had a question, an overall question on ECA effectiveness. Agree or disagree with this statement? The board, council, and staff working in combination are effective in controlling costs at Eastman. This is the exact same question we asked in 2016. And these numbers mirror the numbers that we saw before. When you recalculate taking out the gray, these are okay. And the big negative bar, the big division back in 2016 is cut in half. You know, frankly, these are probably pretty good scores, but and I want to say this carefully, while satisfaction overall is very high, and these scores are okay, these are good, there is an undercurrent in the comments about fees and the level of cost. The most important block of comments we saw were concern about the level of fees or the rate of change of fees. I think those are two slightly different issues that we were hearing about, but that's the block of comments. If I look at these things in terms of a balance, there were a good number of comments, 115 out of 550 people who did make a comment that said they're worried about either fees, the level of fees, or the rate of change. And nobody, almost nobody was saying, hey, you ought to be more expansive, you ought to do more things, that'd be fine, they'll cost more, but we just didn't see those kind of comments. So I think on balance, people want us to be careful about the level of fees and the rate of change. And I assure you as a board member and treasurer that we are very conscious of that and pay attention to that all the time. Second on this page, how is the ECA done on COVID? I believe our members overall are expressing pretty darn good satisfaction with the job that ECA has done on COVID. In the comments, almost 100, half were good job and half said the restrictions were too tight. That's probably right where you want them, if you ask me. Yeah, if we had half and half, too tight and too loose, I would worry. The last question on the survey was suggestions for improvement, wide open question. These are the comments we got. 115 about fees, the level of fees, cost control, and the rate of change. They noticed the roads, potholes, concern about environmental control, and then comments about the beaches, boats, and docks. Generally positive about the beaches, and I'm sure you know that there's a number of frustrations in the community now about boat racks and dock space. I'm going to take a look at these two. I'm going to take a look at the finances and fees, and then the environmental control comments. In terms of the comments on fees and cost control, I said there were 116. That's 99 who said lower the fees and 17 who talked about cost control. These comments, these are representative. On fees, reduce costs, minimize increases. The HOA dues are too high for what we get. get rid of the annual assessment, cut out the unnecessary expenses, and so forth. Cost control. Comments about cost control, I believe these reflect a concern rather than specific suggestions. A number of people mentioned they wanted to be able to pay bills electronically. And there are a couple of interesting comments about equity. You know, we charge the same fee whether you use your house or not. Concern about subsidizing the golf course and restaurant. You know, we do subsidize the restaurant. We give them basically free rent, although there's a revenue sharing arrangement. Golf course P&L is very hard to calculate. I don't think we subsidize the golf course as much as people may think. Have people pay for what they use rather than paying all the time. And this last one, what about an adjustment for that things were closed down during COVID? Any questions on these before I go to the environmental comments? Environmental comments. This was the third ranking group, 96 comments among 501 people who left any comment at all. The comments were about cutting rules, loosen the tree cutting rules. I don't know how many of you have had experience working on this. By and large, if you want to take down a tree, you usually have to talk to the Environmental Control Committee and they come out and take a look and give you their judgment. Comments saying you ought to loosen those. Second category of comments is about the process in the rules. Simplify it, make it easier for us to do these things. A few people said the tree cutting rules should be tightened. Let's see, that's really a pretty small number. And a good healthy number said, we really love our wonderful Eastman environment and it's important to keep it looking nice and natural. So I'm going to summarize. In demographics, we're really quite dynamic, not static. This is the 30% new every 5 years. New buyers are in a wide range of ages. This is a challenge for marketing and for planning our offerings. The owner profile is pretty old, 27% 70 plus, 48% 60 plus. You know, this is handy right now in COVID as the COVID vaccine's been available, cascading down in age groups. I think we're getting vaccinated faster maybe than other communities. Our 20 to 39 age group is only 10%, less than half the percentage of New Hampshire were older than the state or Sullivan County. In terms of usage, we've got more owners living here. It's a big jump. Will that continue? It's a good question. We have more working households living here. 30 went up to 40%. Will that be maintained? An awful lot of people I talk to assure me that working from home, and we've certainly seen a lot of people doing that, working from home is working better than anybody thought. That makes me think that we're going to keep some of this gain. Maybe not all of it, but we'll keep some of it. We have more families with kids living here. 12% went up to 14%. Weekenders with kids are disappearing. As recently as 10 years ago, that was 15% of our owners, and 9% of our owners, and it's cut in half to below 5. Owners are spending more time here at Eastman. On the attitudes, our satisfaction is very good. The satisfaction with the amenities and roads is good. Satisfaction and confidence in our institutions is good. Concern are the level and rate of change of fees, the condition of roads and beaches, rules and restrictions. The polarized negative attitudes of 2016 have significantly diminished. Retirees, that means the gauntlet is down to make sure that we're serving working families. And the no answer responses suggest that owner usage and familiarity with both golf and tennis may have been declining in the past decade, and this bears investigation. A tiny little story. In past surveys, we offered the opportunity, if you don't want to do this on computer, we'll give you a paper copy and we'll enter it into the computer system. And in past surveys, we had, sometimes 30 or 40. And in 2016, we had 24 people request paper surveys. Think about how many people wanted a paper survey this time. It was 0. No request whatsoever for a paper copy of the survey.
That's great.
It is great. Furthermore, we ask questions about use of electronic devices. And it's really clear, I think that we can drop paper across the board at Eastman and make it paper only upon special request. I've already given you the comment that we're really good at counting dollars. We're not paying as much attention to operational data. We have an opportunity to improve our act by paying more attention to operational data. I hope that anybody doing a survey at Eastman in the future will use comparable questions so that the answers can be compared. And now I want to give you just a tiny little plug. We'll see if there's anything to discuss. The plug is this: that our committee, we don't decide what to do. We're experts in doing it. And anybody who wants to find out what their subset of Eastman population is thinking or opining about something, we're ready to help. Whether it's a committee, an activity, a special place, or whatever, we can help. The second little sales pitch is that if any of you listening have experience in doing this, if you ran surveys, designed them, interpreted or analyzed them, give me a call, because I'd love to have you. I'd love to have a couple more members to join our committee, because I think we're going to have some demand from various Eastman groups that want to get answers from their populations. So let me see if there's any other questions or any comments on anything here. Anybody have anything they want to add to
I have a
what
comment.
we talked about?
I have a comment, which is that, as you probably know, satisfaction is such a broad term, and I see in bullet 2 you say with amenities and roads.
Yeah.
But still, I'd be careful and or want to do more probing about the fact that satisfaction is higher among retirees, because retirees are more satisfied with life, period. And really, and the fact that, younger people aren't as satisfied, I don't think is something that you should knock yourself over to have. I mean, yes, of course, there should be some programming and they should be attended to, but I wouldn't go crazy about it, because I think they're always going to be dissatisfied.
Okay, I got that. We'll think about that. But I'm serious that the staff, I briefed the rec staff on this, and they said, okay, we can start thinking about what we can do for working families. Maybe it's about schedule, maybe it's about what we offer. We've got live here and don't, we've got working and don't work, all 4 of those segments. The ECA wants seriously to provide things that work well for everybody here. Was there someone else?
Richard, it's Martha Arnold again. Will the verbatims be made available?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll warn you, there's a lot of them. But
yeah, no, I heard.
We've done yeoman's work. Becky Myers did fabulous work in categorizing these verbatims. We have a 100-page report, but it's indexed, and you can find certain areas. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And if anybody wants to look at the raw data, there's no personal identifiable information here. I think we could do that. Or the crosstabs, anything. We'll have a number of documents on the website shortly.
Super. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm curious what you think of all this. Barb.
I was just going to say, I think you've done an amazing job on this. And it sounds like you're tuned in really well to the pulse of the community, because I've been following all these boats and beaches and racks and can't you build more and all that kind of stuff. And it was as if nobody thought there was anybody out there aware of that. And I think you're very well aware of issues like that that are flashpoints.
Well, thank you very much, Barb. And I want to assure you the staff is very aware. You know, it's a delicate balancing act because, you know, we want anybody who wants access to the lake, our wonderful lake, to be able to have access. But we don't want our shore filled up. We don't want our beaches filled up with boats sitting there, 95% of the time sitting there. Also, I have a little bug. I walk around the lake path, the whole lake path. I'll tell you, you know, a lot of the lake owners have little racks with, you know, 2, 3, sometimes 4 boats right there. And you see an awful lot of racks. I wonder, because downtown Boston has this bike share system. And if you want to ride a bike in downtown Boston, you don't need to have your own. You just walk down to the corner, check out a bike and drive it wherever you're going and check it into the rack where you're going. And I wonder if we couldn't have a kayak system like that at each of the 4 beaches.
Yeah, that's been suggested by Julie Strong and others, and it's a good idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Hard to do, but good idea. Leslie promises me she's working on it. Yeah. Any other comments? What do you make of this? Anything?
Yeah, hey, Rick, it's Henry.
Yeah. Hey, Henry.
How are you?
Good. My neighbor, Henry.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for this. This is just great work. One of the things that jumped out at me was maybe it was a sense, but it was a sense that owners are getting a little concerned with heightened levels of regulation.
Yes.
In our community versus their ability to manage their properties and to develop their properties and so forth and so on. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, from obviously the survey, but also from your board position, how you interpret that? Well,
so thank you, Henry. It's a good question. You know, I look at this in terms of balance of sentiment. And I think that the balance of sentiment ought to gently guide what we do. The survey indication here is that the balance of sentiment is, the sentiment would favor a little less regulation, a little less rule, and easier things to do. And there are also some voices that want to do more, have tighter restrictions, don't like some of the things that they see some places around Eastman. But I think the survey here indicates a balance. The board has taken a position and established a precedent that for major issues, we want to measure formally the opinion and support in the community. And when there are major propositions and some elements of the stuff that's going on with forestry right now would qualify there, the board position is that they should be measured. I don't know. I think I'll stop there. I think what that means, we're going to have tighter regulations. There ought to be a damn good reason.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
See you in a month.
Look, anybody else?
Rick, can I have a comment?
Absolutely.
I've been thinking about how some people that live near the water might have a different view about some of these issues than the ones that live further away. So it'd be an opportunity for maybe some other surveys that would address that and really zero in on issues that are particularly important depending on the geographical area. I certainly have one area in mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. We ask owners to identify their special place, and I can provide a tabulation of answers for any special place. We did not ask the nature of their property, lakeside, creekside, gulf side. So we purposely didn't do that. We might do that in the future. Which special area were you thinking about, Jim?
Well,
if you want to say.
I live in West Cove, and I live near Mill Pond, which has all of 8 people on the pond. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious if I could even understand what all 8 of us are thinking. And I think I know, but I actually don't. We talk a lot, but it might be a little local survey with maybe 10 or 12 property owners and say, let us know.
Well, for 10 or 12, I think you're going to do better at a picnic table.
Well,
but if you guys want to do something like that, we could help you formulate the questions.
The other thing would be, I mean, all of West Cove, we have interesting things with the views of the water, and
yeah,
it's a slightly different environment than perhaps some of the homes that are a little bit further back in the woods.
Right. Okay. Anybody else?
This is Jean Ellis. Just a quick question. Do you have any sense of what the percentage of people that volunteer on some of the committees? Is it, the old 80-20 rule? Or I've enjoyed recently, although I said I'm one of those weekenders, but I've been doing weekends for 30 years. I recently joined the Grantham Garden Club, which I know is a lot of Eastman people.
Yeah.
And it was a COVID opportunity, and I'm delighted to join. And just a week ago, I joined a group online talking about potentially putting together a dog park, which I'm sure many of you were on. And it struck me that it's a group of people, community get together over a common interest and are always very positive, whether it's about beautifying the intersections with gardens or having a friendly place to walk. A lot of people have dogs, and we liked, and it's a great, and I was thinking, but a lot of people like to step up and get very involved. And I was wondering, do you have any sense of the number of people who are actively involved in a lot of the committees around Eastman?
Oh, Jean, that's a good question. First of all, we did not measure that this time. We chose this time to focus on the topics I mentioned, but we did measure that and did it and looked at it pretty closely in a similar survey in 2016. And if you'd like, I'd be happy to take a look at those answers. But I know that the answer is that not everybody volunteers, but a lot of people volunteer, and the volunteers make things happen here in very significant measure. Now, I'll tell you the other side of it. This is my little theory of Eastman, that we have wonderful volunteer opportunities and very enthusiastic people, and we continuously set up overlapping remits. Overlapping between committees and overlapping between committee and staff. So the good news is that there's lots of different points of view and opinion and energies applied to any significant question at Eastman. The side effect, though, is it's easy to wind up getting frustrated by running into somebody else who's thinking about the same thing. And I think that just everybody has to be real calm when they run into one of these conflict situations and let it work out. Because it would be easy to get frustrated and angry, which does happen sometimes. But yeah, volunteer is very important, and it's not everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Anybody else, or is it time to call it 9 o'clock and call it a night?
On to basketball.
Righto. Hey, thank you all. Thank you all so much for your interest and
thank you, Ray.
Attention. If you get questions tomorrow, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you.